Folks, welcome back to Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance. This is the third stream in this series. So in the second stream, we finished Act 1, we lit a signal fire, got a little teaser that there's going to be a dragon fight at some point in the near future. I don't know if we're going to end up fighting the dragon in this stream or not. Like, I want to say Act 2 really isn't that long compared to Act 1. But yeah, so we're currently in this dwarven mine that was overrun by drow. So we haven't fought the drow yet. They're like in... Oh, never mind. There they are. So as soon as I say it, of course. Hey, Sword Talon 1, how's it going?
Stay down.
Okay, just gotta... I actually missed the last couple of weeks of doing this particular stream. Just stuff sort of always came up, or... Or I just wasn't up to it. We were either away, or... I know, like, last week I was having issues with my shoulder, with tendonitis sort of flaring up in the shoulder, so it's been a little while since we've done this one. So I got to sort of get back into it here. But in the last one, we actually picked up the Repulse ability, and what's cool about that is if you get swarmed, you can actually use it to push people away. And I know I'm playing the Archer, and I really haven't done much with the Archer yet in this game. But Repulse is just really good because, like I said, it pushes people away. Apparently it also ignites explosive barrels, so that's good to know. Alright, well, he's gonna... That guy's gonna be kind of annoying, so we'll deal with that now. Oh, so just playing a little bit of archery there reminds me, so with this being like, you know, the Xbox Series X and us having Game Pass, Ultimate Game Pass, it includes, I guess, I don't know if it's just Ultimate that does it, or if they would all sort of do this, but having Game Pass, at least the one we do, gives us Xbox Live Gold. So one of the games that was on, like, the free games with gold this month, was one of the Warhammer ones. It's not Vermintide, or Vermintide 2. Vermintide 2, actually, I played a little bit of, and it's like this kind of first-person game. But the other one that I was playing was a lot like this one, actually. So it was like, you know, kind of pseudo-isometric, very reminiscent of like this or Diablo, and the archery in that game I like a lot more, because it seems to like auto target. Like if you're simply like looking in the person's direction, it kind of like will snap your aim towards the enemy, versus this one where you have to like manually aim, and it works well enough for the most part, but I like the way that the Warhammer one does, and that might also be a game for a future stream. That might be kind of fun to do. So I'm not quite sure exactly what I'm going to do after this game wraps up, because this one is not excuse me, this one is not particularly long. Especially, Jesus, these guys are kicking the crap out of me. Especially, like, if I manage to complete Act 2 in this stream, because basically, like, what we have to do, we have to go through the mines. I think there are 3 levels to the dwarven mines, and then we have to go through like this. Basically, go through like the frozen area where the white dragon is. And then that ends Act 2, so we have a pretty good chance of actually finishing it in this one. Oh, you do a lot of Warhammer 40k? That's awesome. So they have like a role-playing game and like a miniatures game, right? And I don't mean like historically, because I know they've had both historically, but like I think they still, I know for sure they're still doing the miniatures game, because there's one of the game stores in our area has like the big Warhammer display. But they're still doing an RPG, like tabletop RPG for that too, aren't they? God, these things hit like a truck.
Stay down.
Like Warhammer, it seems really cool, but it was just one of those things that I never personally got into. I think shortly after I moved from, and this doesn't mean mean anything to anyone not living in Nova Scotia, but when I moved away from the valley where I grew up in, right after I moved, some of my friends started a Warhammer like fantasy RPG, but they were also playing like the Warhammer miniature game as well. Have a lot of old Warhammer miniatures games, like the 40k Universe software. Okay. Yeah, I mean, like the one that I only played like maybe an hour of it so far, but it seems really cool for what it is. I kind of wonder though, because like I know that the processing speed on the Series X is a lot higher than what they're, maybe not a lot higher, but it's definitely higher than what some of the other systems, like the earlier systems that this Warhammer game is on. So it seems like the dialogue is really quick. Like, I don't know if it's supposed to be like loading in each person's lines of dialogue as they come up, but you'll have people almost talking over each other in the cutscenes. And I'm just wondering if it's because like the processing speed is high enough with the Series X that the time between dialogue where the options would load in or the dialogue loads in is just that much faster. Never played the RPG, so my friends, the people that were playing it, one of the individuals that, I think the person that was running it actually has done work on the role-playing game system. I don't know the extent of the work, because I didn't really get to know the person very well, because he just kind of moved back to that area. Again, it was after I had left town. So I only went down, I've only went down like once or twice since then, and that was like, oh my god, like almost 10 years ago. Now we're about to die. But yeah, as far as I know, like he was actually heavily involved in working on the actual role-playing game. I don't know if he was like a writer, editor, exactly what he was doing, but he was actually working he was actually working on the RPG, which is kind of cool. Space Marine, which was on the PlayStation 3. Okay, possibly Xbox. Yeah, I've never played any of the futuristic stuff. I've only ever played some of the like Warhammer Fantasy stuff. I was honestly, I was never really into like science fiction or science fantasy RPGs until I started getting into Starfinder. Ooh, a padded helmet +1. Is that actually better than what we're wearing? Yeah, well, it has to be, because we're just wearing regular... Oh, I have 3 of them. I have not been paying attention. And I'm still worried about the crappy... I'm still wearing worn, padded armor from the beginning of the game. I really need, like, a good suit of armor. It's something that I may have to bite the bullet and actually buy it, because at this point it's getting a little... it's getting a little ridiculous how long it's been since I've gotten, like, an actual suit of armor. Like, I've picked up some helmets, some gloves, some boots... excuse me. But I haven't picked up anything as far as, like, actual body armor goes. Closest thing to Starship Troopers. So, funny story. I've also never actually watched Starship Troopers. It's just one of those things. Like, it came out during the period of time in which I was kind of, where I was just kind of done with, like, anything science fiction-y. And I'm like. So for me, anything involving, like, you know, technology and space travel and stuff, whether there's other elements sprinkled in, like, it's still science fiction because there's still some science involved, and it's fictional. But some people get really mad if you call something science fiction that they believe is science fantasy. And man, did I ever learn that when I was doing Starfinder stuff at first. Like, I would get lengthy, lengthy comments about how, like, it's not science fiction because there's magic in there. It's like, well, you know, it can be both. But yeah, I don't know. Read the book first, the movie. Okay. Again, it shows how little I know. I didn't know that it was based on a book. Or is it like, is the book, like, got a completely different title that got adapted into Starship Troopers, or? Okay, that was fun to do, I'm not gonna lie. Science fantasy swings both ways. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just because, like, I don't obsess over labels or categorizing things. And certainly not to the extent where, like, where I feel the need to correct others. The only thing I would do that for is, like, history versus fiction, right? Like, if something is a real-world event that happened and people think it's fiction, then it's like, well, no, this actually happened, right? Like, I remember hearing stories of people that were shocked after seeing the movie Titanic and finding out that, oh, it was an actual thing. It's like, oh, come on. Like, how do you not know? Or people thinking that World War I was called World War I while it was going on. I've seen comments like that too on certain things. But even then, as a general rule, like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of, like, getting worked up over minute things and trying to tell people just how wrong they are. Yeah, you knew that ship was sinking. Yeah. Now the thing that bugs me, about Titanic, and I know this has nothing to do with the game I'm playing, about the movie, is because I was someone who got, like, really fascinated with the actual historical event from a very young age. So I, read up on it, I researched on it. I still will, like, if there's documentaries or, like, the Titanic Honor and Glory, Historic Travels is another really great channel on YouTube that I watch regularly. So, like, I still watch all this stuff all the time. And the thing that bugs me, not to the point where I get, like, upset or have to, like, feel the need to actually anyone, but the thing that gets really annoying for me are people thinking that Rose and Jack were real people, or that the events that happened with like a third-class passenger being allowed into first class was even something that could remotely happen back then. Like it's like, no, they weren't real people. You know, that whole thing was a completely fictional story that was made for dramatic purposes. And what's even worse is because I live in Halifax, well, Dartmouth, which is part of Halifax here in Nova Scotia. So Halifax actually has a really long series of connections with the White Star Line. I guess this is the history episode of my Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance stream. But so living in Halifax, or in the Halifax Regional Municipality, when the Titanic sank, the majority of bodies that were collected by the McKay Bennett, which was a ship based out of Halifax, and there's a lot of bodies that are buried here in Halifax. And there is a J. Dawson that is buried in Halifax, and people think that I'm just gonna sell these lesser ones. But people think that J. Dawson was Jack from the movie, and it's like, no, that I forget the actual name that the person, but I think they were like one of the firemen, one of like the stokers for the ship.
Never will you see such fine steel as you will in this shop.
Okay, so we got some weapons we got to sell off here. So yeah, so you know, other interesting things about like the White Star Line in Halifax. And so I'm going on a complete and total tangent here. So in the late 1800s, the White Star Line's biggest disaster, like shipwreck and loss of life, occurred in Halifax with the RMS Atlantic, or the SS Atlantic, and that was one where, I mean, it was just a rough one. Like there's stuff on it on some of the channels on YouTube. You can definitely look it up. There's a little museum here in Halifax actually that we went to. It was really cool to see some of the stuff that was recovered. But that was a shipwreck where like it was a huge loss of life. And not a single woman survived, not a single child survived, except for one. Well, the only child that survived only because they were in the section of the ship where the men were. Because back then they had like single men in the front of the ship, on the bow of the ship. They had single women, I think, in the stern of the ship, and then you had families in the middle. But the only people that managed to survive were the men. So, but that was a really bad one. And then during World War I gotta see how many healing potions I got here. And during World War I, the RMS Olympic, the Titanic sister ship, the one that came before the Titanic, the only one to actually have a complete lifespan in service. It was a troop transport.
Are you looking for anything in particular?
Here and it was picking up Canadian soldiers out of Halifax and taking them over to Europe to fight in the war. So there's a place that we pass every once in a while, and they had this like mural painted on this wall, and there's the RMS Olympic there. So it's something I could talk about all day because I'm a huge, I guess, nerd when it comes to that. But anyway, that's basically it. There's just a lot of White Star Line stuff here in Halifax. Look, I'm just chill, buddy. Just chill. All right, so look at some other comments here. I have AC3 accessory for D&D. They accidentally produced another accessory. They accidentally labeled AC3 again. I went to fix it with stickers that said AC5, which turned out to have already come out. They came out with it as AC8, which I have. Okay. And some people say it doesn't exist. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I find like I think that's the one that bugs me the most. Like you'll have something or experience something firsthand, and when you go to relate that experience, people tell you that how that couldn't have happened, even though like they weren't there and you were, or they don't own what you own, and you can show them, like you can actually like just literally just take a picture and it's like, well, here it is. And because we're fighting Drow, of course, we also have to fight spiders, and spiders are super gross. It's honestly like one of the things that it's just really worn me out when it comes to like the internet in general these days. Like I'm so sick and tired of seeing people have to contradict literally anything and everything. Like I don't go on Facebook anymore. I don't like on Twitter. I have some friends whose posts I'll look at by searching their pages specifically from my own page, or some like some of the game companies. Oh, I need to find. I missed a gear. I thought I found all three, but I guess not. But like it's. I don't know. Like I guess everyone feels that like they have to be right, or I mean, I have some friends. Like I have a friend who was a great friend for years. That he's just always has this like contrary personality, and I don't know if he necessarily believes the things that he will argue, or he just likes to be like contrary to everybody. But just seeing some of the like the ways that he would comment on stuff on Facebook and everything, I just reached the point where I just had to unfriend and block. It's like I'm just tired of seeing, you know, someone being super contrary about things, and I just really trying to cut negativity out of my life. And the internet is it's a place where negativity can kind of reign supreme, so, which is unfortunate too, right? Because there's been a ton of great things that, you know, I've experienced, or, you know, awesome people that I've met, people that I get to interact with that I really enjoy interacting with, and I wouldn't have if it weren't for things like, you know, Facebook, Twitter, you know, YouTube, you know, and even though I'm still very early into my like Twitch stream and stuff, like I know Twitch will be the same thing. So it's just tons of great people, but there's also just going to be that like negativity that's just ever present, and it gets difficult sometimes. Like recently on a video, I'm not gonna name the video we're going to, like, because I don't want to single people out or ever open the door for people to like feel that they have to take up. Holy crap! I'm gonna die. Like to take up the argument or defend or anything like that. Like I'm not that kind of person. But I reviewed a product, and the comment was, I normally like your reviews, but I don't like this one because you didn't like the product. And for me, that seemed like a weird way to frame it. Like, I could see, you know, I normally agree with the reviews, but not this one. Like, that's fine, right? Because people are certainly allowed to have, like, their own genuine opinions. But to say that you hate the review because you dislike the product...
This looks important.
I don't know, that kind of bugs me, because at that point it's like... It takes on sort of a personal thing, I guess. Like, you can disagree with the review, absolutely. And that's fine. But to say that, like, I normally like your videos, but I don't like this one because I disagree with your opinion on this, like, that just... Again, that seems to take it into a weirdly personal space. Like, am I wrong? Because if I'm wrong, like, please let me know. But that's just the way that it kind of got... that I interpreted it, and the way that it kind of sounded, but... Yeah, you purposely told Microsoft to crank up my spiders? Thanks. So many games I've been playing where it's like, of course there has to be giant enemy spiders. I forget what the other one was the other day that I was playing. The missus was sitting next to me, and like she got a kick out of it because it's just like, why are there spiders? Like, why do there have to be spiders? Like, one of the things that I was playing a little bit of Shadow of War, Middle-earth Shadow of War, like the Shadow over Mordor sequel. And the one thing I appreciated early on was that, like, they introduced Shelob, but they had her... Oh god, the Drow Wizards. But they had her, like, shapeshift into, like, a woman. And it's like, okay, I prefer that. Got one of them now, we never went to the... Oh, yeah. And then when you show them, like, actual satellite images of the landing sites, they'll just say that that's Photoshop. Like, I mean, I don't even necessarily want to get started on conspiracy theorists. Because that's just, like, a no-win situation. Because, like, the thing that I've seen so many times with, just get out of there for a second. The thing I've seen so many times with, like, conspiracy theorists is, like, they'll have these just really, like, logically outlandish theories. Good job. So yeah, so I guess these are actually technically priestesses, but they can, if their magical attacks hit explodey barrels, they'll explode and they can kill themselves, which is something that happened. But the things always go the same way, right? It's like, you know, completely outlandish statements, based off of usually like pseudoscience or a complete and total conjecture with no basis in actual like reality or any supporting evidence. And instead of them having to prove necessarily their viewpoint, you have to disprove theirs, right? It's always, oh, well, you know, show me the evidence then. It's like, okay, well, here's the evidence, and then when you show them the evidence, it's always CGI, Photoshop, you know, misinformation from the government. Like, there's just all the, like, it's just, there's just no winning, right? Like, with conspiracy theories, I can't stand them, and you know, people say, oh, well, you know, it's harmless, just let people believe what they want to believe, and, you know, that's fine until we get into a situation like what we have right now in the world, where, like, these unchecked conspiracy theories have gotten to the point where it is starting to harm people, right? So it's not actually harmless. So, ow. So any of that stuff, I just can't stand. Sorry for going off on a bit of a rant there. Like, it's not my normal thing to do, but I've got Shadow War. I suck at it. Yeah, I wasn't doing super great at it either. It's a very, like, reflex-intensive game, and my reflexes just aren't as good as they were. Even when Shadow of Mordor came out, which I never actually beat that, but even when that came out, like, my reflexes were better then than they are now. So, I guess to use, like, a and I died. Gosh, see those, the exploding barrels. Hopefully it wasn't too far back where I saved. So this is a section where you have to save, like, super frequently. Oh, I forgot to do my level up, too. That was not intentional. So, yeah, so I guess, like, nice. So for, like, the conspiracy theory stuff, I don't want to go with anything, like, political or, like, anything like that, because that's just a no-win situation. But to go back to our history lesson from earlier, being, like, someone who's researched and has an interest in, like, the Titanic sinking, there was this conspiracy theory going around that the ship was sunk intentionally. and that they simply swapped the Olympic and Titanic, and like it was like a super easy thing to do, even though it was like for ships of the and the argument was, well, you know, like if for fishing vessels, like there have been times where people have done that. It's like, you know, sure, fishing vessels aren't that hard to do, but the largest ships in the world at the time, with different physical designs, like it just wasn't something that would happen. But the conspiracy theorist part that is frustrating about it is, like, they would have their explanations as to why, right? So it was like, oh, it was an insurance scam, right? Like they intentionally sunk a ship that was marketed as like for its safety features. Let's do, all right, let's upgrade Hail of Arrows. And health regeneration. Right, so it was like, oh, it was an insurance scam to claim the insurance money, and that the ship was like overinsured at the last minute. It's like, okay. So you can actually look at was it Lloyd's of London? That was the insurance company that White Star used. So you can like literally look up their records. And so the Titanic, Olympic, those ships cost $7.5 million to build. Construct at that time. And the Olympic was only a year old, so it's not like, you know, they were, you know, gonna value it at like, you know, $3 million or something like that. So they claimed that they overinsured the value of the ship by $2.5 million. The actual thing that happened was that the ship was underinsured by $2.5 million. So it was, it cost the ship cost $7.5 million. The Titanic was insured for $5 million, which was $2.5 million less than, I'm gonna just save right now. So it wasn't overinsured by 2.5, it was underinsured by $2.5 million. So like you point that out, and it's like, oh well, and then that stops being the explanation, and then it has to be something else, right? So it's like you disproved their theory, so they just change the narrative, right? Like the goalpost gets shifted, and it's like you know, you just, I don't know, just admit that you're wrong. Right? Like, you know, if you wanted to engage in a thought exercise or propose, you know, like something that, you know, might make for like an alternate history kind of thing, like that's one thing, but so then I think the second thing was and then it was like, it was all about the Federal Reserve, because some of the important people that died on the ship were supposedly vehemently against the creation of the Federal Reserve. But if you actually again look up actual historical records and like interviews with these people in newspapers, some of the ones that they said were the most vehemently against either had no opinion publicly, or they actually voiced approval for it. So I don't know. It's just, like I said, I hate just constantly shifting the goalpost, right? Like if you come up with a theory and you're like, all right, prove me wrong, and you prove them wrong, just admit that, okay, that theory doesn't pan out. Like, don't just say, oh well, then it has to be this then. Like, it doesn't work that way, or shouldn't work that way. Oh yeah, one of my other subscribers put up a great video about the Halifax Explosion. Yeah, oh yeah, the Halifax Explosion. So, it was like the largest or second largest non-nuclear man-made explosion in history, at the time at least. And one of the ships involved was also a former White Star Line ship. So, going back to Halifax's connection with the White Star Line, was it the IMO? IMO was the spelling. That ship was previously a White Star Line ship. It was sold to a different company and renamed, but it was actually a White Star Line ship when it was commissioned and built. So we got, like I said, we got plenty of connection to arguably the famous famous ocean liner, the most famous company producing ocean liners in the world. Okay, that's a hole that you can literally fall into, by the way. And when you swing, if you do a combo, you can take steps forward, so... Anyway, what do we got here? Fascinating horror, okay. Yeah, that's actually, so never rename a ship. That is like the nautical tradition. But yeah, that ship was renamed and did not work out for it. Okay, so this section, yeah, there's so many of these spellcasters. I'll have to check that channel out. I mean, so I'm a huge history buff. Like, I love history. My wife hates history. I shouldn't say she hates it, but she's just not. She's not interested by it. Alright, let's just blow her up with those barrels. Because I've been watching a lot of, excuse me, the Historical Travels channel, and So I'm not just history, but I'm also a sucker for just like really good but low production channels, like low production. I don't want to say production quality, because that saying something has low production quality tends to have like sort of a negative connotation. But it's just someone who, like, he will have stuff that he voiceovers as well, but he'll also just stand in front of, or sit in front of a camera and talk, right? Like, I kind of like stuff like that, that's just, when you can tell it's just a single person doing it, I guess. Low budget? Yeah, I guess low budget. High quality, but low budget, we'll say. But that's a really great channel as well, and he was focusing a lot on the Olympic lately, which is a ship that I absolutely love and feels completely overshadowed. Yeah, so I love stuff like that. Extra credits, which is a bigger channel and has much higher production costs, we'll say, because that was like animated. I haven't watched their stuff in a little while, but they had like their extra history series of videos, and those were awesome. Like, I absolutely loved watching those. And one of the things that I loved about their extra history stuff was when they started calling out their own mistakes. Like, 'cause I think that that's an important thing to be able to do in this day and age, is to, like, if you make a mistake, just admit it. But they were a great channel as well. The thing that I liked, like, so it was animated and they sort of up-pitched their voices, the narrators' voices. And the original person who was doing those voiceovers, he left. And when they brought somebody new in, and I get the reason why, right? But when they brought somebody new in, they just had him record in his normal voice. Like, they didn't change the pitch to the way that they had been doing, and it kind of threw me off for a bit. And then I just kind of got away from watching it. I need to go back and actually start watching their stuff again, but extra credits and their extra history stuff was amazing. Just like going back and looking at the events leading up to World War I, like that series was amazing. Their series on the hunt for the Bismarck and the ultimate sinking of that ship, like that was a great series. The Rome-Carthage Wars. There's just all kinds of great stuff. Anyway, it was a great channel. So one of the interesting things in this game, let's talk about the game I'm actually playing for a minute here. Just gotta take a quick drink. Just hold on. Bear with me here. So one of the interesting things about this game is you may have just seen, we've got this like lizard riding drow. Now, like so in this game, I think this is the only enemy in the entire game that's actually mounted at all. But when you defeat both at the same time, like the mount and the rider, so they just both die at the same time. In Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 2, you have things like goblins riding wolves and stuff like that, and I want to say you kill the mount first, or it's random, but whichever one you kill, the other one will just keep fighting. So, like, if you have the mounted goblin, I like the frequency of checkpoints here. So if you, so if you're fighting like a goblin riding a wolf, if you kill the wolf, then the goblin just jumps off the wolf and keeps fighting. And so that's one of the improvements that was made over this game, where they... okay, stop getting so close to that exploding barrel, please. So, but in this game, like, they just didn't do it. They're just literally just one enemy. So they just both die at the same time, which seems kind of weird. Just picked up Avalon Hill's Origin of World War I. Yeah, I've never played any of the Avalon Hill games, and I really would love to. Because Avalon Hill, like, their strategy games were some of the things that led to the creation of D&D. And like, I know the Avalon Hill brand is still around, which is owned by Wizards of the Coast now. But I don't think they're putting out the same kind of I don't think they're putting out the same kinds of games. Like, I don't know if they're really focusing on if they have any strategy games that they're putting out anymore. Thought it was funny because I mentioned the title. Yeah, that is kind of neat that you just picked up something about like the lead up to World War I, and I, completely unrelated, mentioned a video series about that I thought was really well done. I had to actually check and see how many healing potions I have left, because I don't think it's very many. Let's do that now, actually. Okay, we're back down to 22, so I've gone through at least 28, because I know I've picked some up, too, and have also used them, so... It's all... yeah, well, yeah, Wizards of the Coast is owned by Hasbro. I guess I was just saying Wizards of the Coast because I think if you go onto the D&D website, I think there's a link you can click on to get to Avalon Hill. Like, there's like Magic the Gathering and then Avalon Hill. And... Alright, come on now. Just chill out, guys. Like this, playing this game kind of, it feels like it was designed by people who wanted to emulate an arcade game. Because just like tons of enemies, ridiculous amounts of damage. So Axis and Allies was a game that we were going to play once. Like my friend brought it out, they were like separating all the pieces. But we just never actually got to do it. Which kind of sucks, because again, like, I would love to try something like that. And like even Risk, like I've never actually played Risk. It was just one of those games that, like, growing up as a kid, playing, you know, the board games that I knew of back then, which were very simplistic. But Risk was just one of those games that just seemed too complicated when I was growing up. And when I say that, I mean, like, you know, elementary school, growing up. Like, not, like, by the time I discovered Dungeons & Dragons. Actually, by the time I started getting into tabletop role-playing games, Risk may have felt kind of basic, I guess, or simple. Oh, we are encumbered. Alright, let's just kill this guy. Oh, and there's some magical armor. It's still frickin' padded armor, but alright. What can we ditch here? Fine light mace. Alright, so let's drop that. We'll drop the Warhammer. And we'll pick those. Oh, come on, man. Alright, we'll drop that. Just ignore that for a second. There we go. So that's the first new armor I've picked up since, I want to say, like almost the beginning of the game. Wooden shield +1, iron shield +... Nope. Iron shield is better. So let's recall and sell off some stuff. They're good games, look harder than they are. Yeah, that's kind of what my friend said too. It's like it looks complicated until you actually start playing it, and then like it's really easy to figure out once you're into it. Which is honestly how I typically learn board games anyway, is by actually playing. Like you look through just enough of the basics to be able to get started, and then when stuff actually comes up. Alright, what do we have here? Just a regular ring.
We have more than enough weapons for everyone.
Just like D&D? Yeah, no, I agree. D&D is a game that feels more complicated than it really is. Alright, let's sell this ring of protection. I'm not gonna use it. Down to 14 potions. Yeah, and like in a lot of cases, the thing that makes D&D feel complicated is just like the overwhelming number of source books that you get for supplements. Right? So like if you just stick to the core rules, any edition really, I would argue first edition is a little bit more complex to get into. Not because it's like the rules are more complex, just it's really difficult. It's more complex trying to like figure out how the books are organized. But yeah, like if you're just sticking to the core rules, it's really not that bad. It's when you start introducing all kinds of like alternate rule sets and different classes or extra feats or just all these things where it starts to feel a little overwhelming. And you get into like decision paralysis or because I've known people that are like non-gamers that have come over and they've seen my bookshelf, like knowing that I'm into role-playing games, and like holy crap, like how, like do you need all that? And it's like, no, you don't. you really don't. But seeing like a 6-foot-tall bookshelf completely filled with like D&D books, it does feel really like overwhelming. Like you wouldn't know where to start, right? Oh, Umber Hulks. Oh, alright, come on, block. Yeah, Umber Hulks are brutal in this game. They don't have confusion or anything like that. Like, they don't actually have their main ability, but they hit like a ton of bricks, and they have a gross amount of health. Holy Lord. Alright. There we go. That was rough. How many potions am I down to after that? Yeah, I used, what, 8? I always let people know whenever, or whether board game RPG, they don't need to know. Yeah, no, like, and I'll be honest, like, I've been running role-playing games for over 20 years. I don't know all the rules. It's just too much information to try to keep in your head all at once. Like, you know, all you need to know are the basics, and then if something comes up, then you can look it up. And that's sort of been the way that I've always approached running or learning games. Like, it's just there's just so much information. It's impossible to keep everything in your head all at once. Like, and well, I shouldn't say impossible, because there are some people that are really good at that. And if you are, then that's amazing, and I envy you. But I've never been able to do that. What was that? Oh, was it like the Umber Hulk? Or what I just said? So we are starting to get some magical armor pieces, but like I said, most of them are gloves or boots or helmets, and they're still padded. Like, the only metal armor I found so far are my gloves. Come on. Wow, getting blocked by the train there. Oh, yeah, the Umber, yeah. So there's Umber Hulks in this section. Are you gonna, like? Thank you. Now I will say, like, the Lizard Rider looks really cool. One of my favorite minis from like the D&D minis line back in the early to mid 2000s. Was the Drow warrior mounted on the lizard, and it looks a lot like that. It doesn't have like the shield or the full plate armor, but it's just a cool. I like the way that the enemy looks. Oh, metal armor boots finally. Okay, cool. There we go. Now we're talking. I guess I just had to complain enough about the lack of armor. But yeah, I've had people ask, like, how do you... Because I run several different systems all at the same time. And one of the questions I've had people ask, like, how do you keep it all straight? And the answer is I don't. I don't at all. Unless they're, like, drastically different systems. Like, so it's a lot easier to keep the rules straight between, like, D&D and Call of Cthulhu. Than it would be like 3rd edition and 5th edition D&D, right? Because they're so different. But no, I don't. I don't like. I can't keep it all straight in my head. And when I learn a new system, it's I look at character creation and I look at combat, and that's basically it. Like, you know, and the other things like skill checks, you know, are usually pretty simple as well. Like the simple base mechanics. Is all that I really try to know before I run something, and then, whoops, and then if stuff comes up, it comes up. The Drow I use ride lizards also, but they're the shadows. Ooh, hello. So I really want to get, I think it's going to be the next DM's Guild or Drive-Thru RPG print-on-demand product that I get. But the Shadow Elf Gazetteer for Mystara, I really want that. Okay, let's There we go. Got rid of him. I think it's time for a recall, isn't it? Because I am probably 26. We got a boss fight coming up here, so I want to make sure I still got plenty. But yeah, no, the Shadow Elves are awesome. Like, I love Mystara. I really want to see them bring it back.
Swords, axes,
and I still
hammers,
think it would be a
we have
great
more than
setting
enough
to
weapons for
release
everyone.
for
If you feel
just
the
the
need to
basic
part with your gold,
free
you've
PDF
come
rule
to the
set
right place,
on...
traveler.
yeah, okay. We're gonna hear what he has to say a lot here. Padded helmet +1, padded helmet +1,
can I
both
help
same
you?
thing.
Are you looking for anything in particular?
Yes, potions. $58, let's buy 2 more. There we go. That should hold me for a bit. But yeah, I think that because they have the free basic rule PDF that you can download, that has everything you need to do, everything you need to have in order to play. They have that PDF, and it's called the basic rules. So I would love for them to release just a basic PDF campaign setting with Mystara information there. And they don't even have to go into like stat blocks or anything like that. They could literally just release like copy and pasted setting information. Whoops, I gotta go back. That's the one I want to have. So they could just literally copy and paste it and just have it as like the free campaign setting. I think it would be great, and it would tie into the fact that it's like meant as a companion for the D&D basic rules. Like it just fits together really well. They'll never do it, but I think it'd be really cool if they did. I guess because technically there's no incentive for them if they make it as a free PDF. But they also made free PDFs for like some of the Magic the Gathering settings, like Innistrad and Amonkhet and Kaladesh. So like there's precedent for them releasing free settings. Yeah, you do. Yeah, the Rule Cyclopedia does have like the do they call it Mystara, or they just call it the known world? Because they have the known world, and it's been a little bit since I looked through the Rule Cyclopedia. But they also mentioned Hollow World in there too, don't they? Like, don't they have the map for Hollow World as well? Okay. Alright, Hail of Arrows. Alright, yeah, you find the energy. We also like Goodman. Yeah, so Goodman Games. So first of all, I love what they're doing. I have several of their products already, like their original adventures reincarnated. I've never played Dungeon Crawl Classics or anything, but I have the quick start rules. It looks really cool. Like, I think that they're a great company. But living in Nova Scotia, it is a pain in the butt trying to get any of their stuff in store. So back in March, my local game store ordered a copy of the Castle Amber original adventures reincarnated, and that was the one of the 5 ones that they've put out so far, and of all the ones they've announced so far, Castle Amber is the one that I want the most, because it's the only one that they've done so far that I don't already have at least a significant portion of the original module, if not the original module, right? Like, so I have Keep on the Borderlands and Into the Unknown. I have the Isle of Dread. I have the original Isle of Dread adventure or module. I have the In Search of Adventure book, or the B1 through B9 compilation book, which has a lot of the stuff from the Lost City in there. So, like, and with the 6th one they're doing, is the Temple of Elemental Evil, and I have the original Temple of Elemental Evil module. So Castle Amber is the one that I want the most. And my local game store placed an order for it back in March of this year. So they ordered it in March. It is now September, and it still has never arrived. I don't know if it was back-ordered or what the situation was, but it's been 6 months and it still hasn't arrived. And the same thing happened with the Lost City. I placed the order for that right before the pandemic started, and it was like 6, 7, or 8 months later before it came in. What about Amazon? Well, see, I don't want to order from Amazon simply because the moment I do, like the moment I order from Amazon and it shows up at my door, it'll be the moment that my local game store gets it in, because I know what my luck is. And I don't really like ordering stuff on Amazon anyway, like, just as a general rule. Having the ability to order, being able to order from my local game store, like, I would rather order through them. And, like, come on, Dumper Hulk. Like, I'm willing to put up with inconvenience if it means supporting my local game store. And oh, jeez, did I level up again, or did I just forget to? I have not been paying attention. So yeah, and there's a bunch of game stores in my area now. Like, the only times I was ordering stuff off of, and I don't even think it was Amazon, I think it was other, like, bookstores that I was ordering off of. But so, like I don't mind waiting a little bit for like a book to come in at my local game store. But I will say that trying to get these Goodman Games books in has been so frustrating that if Castle Amber ever does arrive, it will be the last one that I order. Just because I'm tired of waiting over half a year for them to get in. And I like they're a smaller company, so I don't know if it's just production issues or supply issues, or like maybe they don't have the distributors that they need to make it really easy. Like, I'm sure if I lived in Toronto, it wouldn't be a problem at all. But like, to get this stuff into Nova Scotia can be a complete and total hassle sometimes. And that's not a knock against, like I said, it's not a knock against the company. I think Goodman Games is a great company. I think they do excellent work. I've never been anything short of, like, really impressed with the stuff that I've seen from them. It's just the supply, getting their supplies into Nova Scotia is just way too frustrating at this point. Oh. If I got to, I do. Yeah, no, I get it. Like, when I was living in the Valley, I was more willing to order stuff online, because, number one, like, the game store that I preferred had closed, and the only other game store, holy crap, the only other game store that we had, was not a good one, and I didn't like the owner. I didn't like his attitude that he sort of had. I didn't like the way that he ran his business. So, you know, as much as I don't like to see stores close down, if his closed down, it wouldn't have bothered me, because he was kind of a jerk to the owner of the game store that I was going to. Like, he would talk trash about the store behind the other owner's back, right? And he was also the kind of person that if a new product came out, or like a new expansion to something came out, and it was cheaper than the previous one, he would try to pass it off like he was taking the loss, like that he was pricing it. So with D&D Minis was like the big example. So when D&D Minis first came out, and the prices I'm giving are in Nova Scotia Canadian prices, but the boosters for like 8 minis was $15 for the first couple of sets. So there was the Harbinger, which was the first set that came out. There was Dragon Eye, and then Archfiends, and then there was a giant based set, and I forget the name of it now off the top of my head. But so there was the giant based one introduced huge figures. So the 3 previous sets were $15 for the boosters. They had 8 boosters in a box, but they only had like small, medium, or large creatures. So this one introduced the huge creatures, but the side effect of that is that like they kept the same number. It was like 8 minis, and then there was one huge figure, and they increased the price to $30. So it kind of like you paid an extra $15 for this huge mini. But the minis that they had there were okay. But when the set came out after that, the price went from $30 down to $20. And this other game store owner, like when someone asked, like, oh, why is this, you know, like the price went down? And he tried to pass it off like it was a decision that he made, when it was literally just the MSRP reduced. The manufacturer's suggested retail price was reduced, right? Because you didn't have the huge figure anymore. When technically what had actually happened was the regular standard boosters with 8 minis from small to large size creatures. The price didn't go down to $20. The price technically for that kind of product went up, but because the set before it had the huge figures and was $30 versus $20 for the set that came after it, he passed it off like it was a decision that he made. I actually had a boss that was like that too. Like he would, if you didn't know minimum wage was going up, and then it went up, and you just said, oh, it looks like, you know, my pay went up, he would try to pass it off as if he was giving you a raise. Okay, okay, I think I've done everything here. So I guess gotta check my potion situation, because we're getting into that boss fight now. And we will save once again. I never figured out the money ordeal. When I went into Canada, I lost a little money. When I crossed back the States, I lost. Yeah. So yeah, you'll get charged for converting money. And depending on when you went, there was a period in the early to mid 2000s where the Canadian dollar was actually valued above the US dollar. It didn't last very long, but there was a point where that actually did happen. Alright, so we're going to fight this Drow Priestess boss, and I don't want to say that the team that designed this game was like almost exclusively male, but...
So, you are the one who has come to die. You will pay dearly for the deaths you have caused here today.
Also, the early 2000s was the era of jiggle physics I mentioned, completely unrelated to what's going on now.
My attack? You presume much. The Dwarven mines were to be ours, but we care nothing for the Sunset Mountains.
2015? Yeah, I want to say 2015. The Canadian dollar wasn't over the US dollar, but I want to say that was around the time where it was getting really close. Like, I want to say that we were like 70 or 80 cents on the dollar. But some stores would adjust their price accordingly, some wouldn't. Some places would take US dollars, like, on a 1-to-1 ratio with Canadian dollars around that time. Like, I don't know, it was just one of those eras, I guess.
Can it be see that you've come all this way without knowing your enemy, then it is ignorance that has made you brave. You will soon choke on your own screams, intruder.
Will I
and
now?
I shall offer up your body to Lolth.
Alright, well, you probably will. Oh, skeletons, eh? Alright, what's our... Alright, let's break out the Morningstar Disruption, because if she's... So she summons skeletons, she has... So, okay, we'll roll it back a little bit here. This game doesn't have clerics. Right? There are no cleric spells in this game. So, enemies... Holy crap. So enemies will basically just have... If it's a spellcaster, jeez, they'll have basically the same spells that you do. So she's supposed to be a priestess. But yeah, she's got, like, magic missiles. She'll teleport around. I was really expecting her to summon another skeleton, so she hasn't done this. Let's break out the flaming sword. It's just there. Okay, as soon as I switch weapons, then she summons a skeleton, of course. Naturally. Okay, you know what? We're just gonna switch back to our consistent damage. Oh, okay, and we got her. Alright, so we got a shield, some weapons. And she does explode, so stand back. And then we've got this horn. So you found a horn with a cell key attached to it. I still don't actually know if jumping makes you go faster, but it feels like it does, so I'm going to do it. Okay, do any of these cells have a treasure chest? Nope, okay. Alright, let's talk to Brogan.
Who are you? I am Brogan. Tell me, are you of the Harpers?
Yes I am.
I was their eyes in the Sunset Mountains. There was something stirring within the mountains, organizing the gnolls, the ogres. Then the dragon appeared.
Yeah, so those things were definitely ogres. I fought them, though. The dragon eluded me. Don't worry, it won't for long.
I know little. But the fact that dark elves are working with them is a cause for worry. Whatever leads this army, it must be powerful to have such troops as allies. I heard the drow speak often of their plans. Their goal was to exterminate the dwarven settlement here, in order to protect the movements of the gnolls and ogres in the mountains. In exchange for their help, they were promised the mines, and all within it.
The drow killed the dwarves, so the gnolls and... Okay, yeah, well, that's literally what he just said.
I know not why. They care nothing for the gnolls and ogres.
And so many characters in this game are kind of on the dense side. Like the cleric with that orb. It's like, you think that this orb that killed everybody and raised them as skeletons was put there on purpose? And now this guy literally tells you that, you know, they're going to wipe out the dwarves so everyone else could just move around without having to worry about it. And then, like, you question, like, this, I don't know, it's just...
Gate.
A little dense.
I heard the drow speak of a gate, but it led to the marsh of Chilimber, not Baulder's Gate.
Yep, well, so there's two gates here.
I
I wonder who's protecting the other gate.
When the drow struck the mines. If my hunch proves true, then the gate to the marsh may lie within an ice cave within the mountains. I will mark it on your map. Finding your way to it may prove to be a trick, but you should be able to reach the cave from the mining camp. The cave itself is
Yeah, is it
sealed
really
with
going to be
a great
difficult?
sheet
Because
of
it's
ice.
literally like you can just get there
Oh,
from
I
the...
think the Drow priestess made mention of some horn she used to enter the cave.
Yeah, I've got
If
the
these
horn.
gates are the
I
work
have
of
to
the
have the
creature
horn to
behind
open
these
this
attacks,
door.
then ye must travel to the Marsh of Jalimber and find out the nature of this threat.
Okie
I
dokes.
fear you're right, friend. I fear you're right. Well, let us squander no more time talking of it. Find the gate and take the battle to the beast that's stalking us.
I mean, could you send, like, Harpers to help, or am I just on my own? Okay, cool. Alright, let's start with selling some stuff.
Never will you see such fine steel as you will in this shop.
Okay, padded boots
Axes,
is not
hammers.
nearly as good.
We have more than enough
None of that's
weapons
as
for
good.
everyone.
Again, I'm starting to get concerned with the lack of, like, decent armor. Because I am way under-armored for this section of the game. Alright, I think it's time to sell this flaming longsword. I'm gonna keep the Mace of Disruption because we do fight more undead later. And even though there's
If you
better
feel the
weapons for
need to
damage
part with your
purposes,
gold, you've come to the right place, traveler.
the disruption property is useful enough that you want to keep that weapon. Alright, Torgir, are you gonna know that I did everything, even though I teleported back?
What news of the mines? Do the Dark Elves still hold them?
Oh, he hasn't heard. That's actually kind of refreshing.
Clangadin has truly blessed us this day. You have reversed our fortunes, and we shall never forget it. Have this, and with it, know you have the thanks of the Brungar clan as well.
I hope it's armor.
Brogan's alive! Thrice blessed are we! An ice cave, eh? I've heard something of it from Brogan before, but I didn't think it linked to our troubles. If you go searching for it, be careful. More dangerous beasts than wolves and yeti lair on this mountain.
Yeah, I've already... I know. Alright, so another level up. So what do I do? Honestly, I kinda want to put it into strength. Because I'm just not using the archery stuff enough. Like, the archery abilities are so expensive to buy that it takes a while for them to be worth using. Although, dexterity does increase my armor by 1. No, you know what, let's do strength. We'll bring it up to 20. Alright, let's start getting some exploding arrows. Wasn't there one, there's dodge? Okay, yeah, so dodge, we can do 1, 2... Alright. What is meditation? Increase my mana regeneration? Yeah, let's do that. How many times can I use that pushback power? I can use it as many times as I have mana for it. So it drains your mana. And repulsion, so it will do more damage too, the more points I put into it. So that'll probably be the next thing that I put points into. But let's take our exploding arrows out for a whirl. Oh, did he actually give me... When he said take this? No, it was literally just... Okay, literally just gold. Alright, well, we're going to continue our experiment of not buying stuff. Oh yeah, no, it's great for an archer. The repulsion ability is pretty useful overall. It can just help you out in a tough situation. Especially if you start getting swarmed. So exploding arrows are cool. It's basically a fireball attached to your bow. The downside is that you can also get damaged by it. And if you miss, it just sucks, so... Again, it's neat. I'll probably never actually use it. We're just gonna switch back there. Yeah, the archer just isn't great in this game, and I hate that it's not, because I love playing archers. Like, archers are my favorite thing to play, even though I rarely actually play them. And I think the thing that I think the thing that would make him better is if you didn't have to track arrows. And I know that sounds like a really cheesy power gamer thing to do, but Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 2 doesn't have ammunition. If you have a ranged weapon, you can just use it. It's one of those things that it just assumes you'll have the ammunition you need. Which also would free up a ton of space in my inventory for other stuff. Probably should have healed there. Oh, okay, and go away.
Stay down.
Oh, it's got a cooldown timer too, huh? That is interesting. Something I do not know. So I learned something today. Yeah, I kind of wish it did more damage. Okay. Okay, guys. I can't remember if the extra ranks also push back further, or if it's literally just the extra damage that it does. I've also been trying to think of, so I think I mentioned earlier, I was debating or trying to figure out what game I want to play next once I finish this one. Because we probably only have another 2 or 3 weeks of this game, actually, believe it or not. I think I'm going to go with Pathfinder Kingmaker. I've been playing a little bit of that, and I really like that game. Okay, I think I'm going the right way. The second Pathfinder game has released for Steam, basically for PC, but it is going to be coming to the Xbox and PlayStation. And when that comes out, I'm definitely going to be streaming that as well. I think it's called Wrath of the Righteous. But Kingmaker it's a lot of fun so far. I don't think I'm going to go fully in depth with it, because I know the kingdom building aspect of it is a huge thing, and keeping your kingdom safe, and oh right, this area of the map is completely filled out for you. But I've been playing some of that. I really like that, and so I was watching some reviews for it, and I gotta say, so I don't watch a lot of video game reviews, but I was watching the IGN review for Pathfinder Kingmaker, and that was such a bad review. It was just a bad review, and it feels like it was someone who knows some of the tabletop RPG terminology. So they say that, oh well, this is a game that needs a dungeon master, and it's well, no computer games have a dungeon master. The computer game is the dungeon master. But it was just like, I don't know. I wasn't a fan of that review. Like it didn't seem balanced. It didn't seem to like. So like they complained about like balancing of the encounters and stuff, which I mean a lot of games are going to have that problem. But then he also complained about the fact that the quests in the game have time limits. Right? And it's like, it sounds like this really horrible thing. It's like, oh, you've got these like restrictions on how long you can take to accomplish your task. And I've only played the first little bit of the game, so I can't speak to some of the other stuff that comes up. But the main story quest that I've been going through so far, it gives you like 90 days of in-game time to do. And that's probably enough. So I don't know, like, and personally, I really like the fact that there are time limits, because it's one of the things that I kind of despise the most in some of like RPGs, is that you'll have things come up where they will present it as a super time-sensitive emergency situation, but you could literally goof off for forever. And then come back, and the quest will still be there waiting for you. And as far as like balancing the encounters is concerned, like there are things you can do to adjust the encounter information. Like you can adjust like enemy damage. I think you can adjust. You can adjust. Like there's a whole bunch of like adjustment options you can do to try to balance the encounters yourself if you want to. But I don't know. Like going back to like the old Baldur's Gate games, it was really easy to walk into a situation where you're just screwed. Right? So I don't know. I like some of those, and the Kingmaker really does give me sort of like a Baldur's Gate kind of vibe to it. Like, it just gives me like a sense of... It feels like that's one of the inspirations for it, right? I would not say that the Baldur's Gate games were balanced, right? There were some brutal fights where it was like, all right, reload, reload last save, or... I remember one of the first towns you could go to, walking into a house, and it's like, oh, it's just filled with spiders, and they killed my entire party almost instantly because poison's brutal. And the other thing that bugged me about the IGN review of Kingmaker was it was only like a 3-minute long video. And, I'm not saying that if you're playing like a super long game that your video needs to be long as well. But 3 minutes just felt really short for a game review. Now, and like, and like people were saying, well, oh, it's like a 200+ hour RPG, and when you put your review out, you probably only played like 10 hours or something of it, or less. And it's like, there were things to sort of use as criticisms for the review. I don't agree that that's one of them, because like so one of the things with like reviewing things that I've noticed is, whenever you go to review anything, there's going to be a limited window where you're going to get the majority of your views. And it's usually, like, in the couple of days leading up to release, if you can actually, like, preview something before release date, or within the first, like, week or so of the actual release of the product, whether it's a video game, or a D&D book, or an RPG book, or whatever it is. Generally speaking, you're going to get like 90% of your views around release date, and sometimes with like you either get the game to review like just a few days before release date, or at release date. So like you can't play a full 200-hour RPG and expect to be able to put a review out on like day one of release. So like there are things you can criticize, but that one I don't like. It was like the person that criticized me, saying that I have no right to review adventures, the adventure books for D&D, unless I've run them in their entirety. And it's like you can't, like you can't. They put out like 2 adventure books a year. I don't have the like I can't run a complete campaign and try to get the review video out for it within a week or so of its release, right? Like it's just not feasible. You can read the book and you can give your thoughts on it. Or if you're playing a video game, you can play a certain percentage, a certain number of hours, and base it off of that, right? And a lot of reviews will state how many hours they put into it as well. I don't know if the IGN one did that or not, but a lot of them will say, like, after X number of hours. That's like the hate reviews before something even comes out. Yeah, there's been plenty of that stuff that I've seen too, but yeah, no, I just remember that, like, you need to run the adventure from start to finish before you can review it, and it's like, no. Oh god, these guys. Kobold shamans. That's not it. Holy crap, I'm running out of potions. Okay, we're gonna recall.
How can I help you?
Like, when it comes to a book review, ooh, 9 to 19, that's pretty good. But that's also a two-handed weapon, so we're not gonna do that. Like, you should definitely read the book before you review it.
Are you looking for anything in particular?
Although I'll be completely 100%, so if it's an adventure book, I will read the background, I'll read through like the summaries, and I'll look at all of the encounters. But I won't necessarily like go through all of the flavor text when I like review an adventure book. I basically look for like the encounters that are there, how the story progresses. But you can do that by looking at like the development section after an encounter and all that. And for a campaign setting book,
are you looking for anything in particular?
So for a campaign setting book, what I'll do is I'll read the sections that look interesting to me, like in their entirety, and from that you will get an idea of the general writing of the entire thing, right? Or at least I'll feel confident enough. Like, so if there's a section of it that I find really interesting, and I'll read through, and it's like, okay, that's really well written. The rest of the book is going to have that quality, but
how can I help you?
like, so with the Mogwani Expanse book, I didn't read it cover to cover, but I read through like major sections of each chapter to get an idea of how like the writing is done and the quality of the writing.
Will you see such fine steel as you will in this shop?
And I found like I'm not gonna say the few things, but the things that really grabbed my attention were the ones that I kind of focused on mainly.
We have more than enough weapons for everyone.
People want to know the contents and thoughts on a subject because they don't want to wait. Yeah, like, if I run a campaign in its entirety, like, I don't mind doing a review after the fact, or, like, not a review, but basically a summary. Alright, I gotta get out of there, because that guy's starting to get on my nerves. Like, I definitely don't mind doing summaries. That's what I'm doing with my Age of Worms and the Shackled City campaigns, right? Like, I'll review the chapters and sort of relate some of my experiences going through them, but yeah, like, by the time you get a chance to run a campaign in its entirety, that window of interest is going to be largely closed. And most people that review like D&D adventures, their reviews are based off of their thoughts after reading it. Because again, they're not going to take a year or 8-9 months before they review something, because by then the next book is out and people aren't going to be as interested in the last one. It's just the way the industry works. All right, so we picked up that horn. And we're going to blow the horn here. Now, the horn sound effect on the original version back in the day was super unimpressive. This is a remaster. They may have fixed the horn sound effect, but it sounded really kind of pathetic in the original game. So let's see what we've got here for the horn sound effect. It's still kind of, I don't know, like, it feels like it should be louder than it was, but I don't know. It honestly does sound a little better than I remember it. But it still seems kind of weak for what it ends up doing. Okay, so this section is full of Yeti. We're also going to fight some winter wolves, and I think there's even... I can't remember the frost... So we're going to fight frost giants. Spoiler. I can't remember if we fight them here, or if we fight them after we get out of this cave. We're also going to fight some displacer beasts. Oh, okay, crap. I spoiled that before I meant to. There's a little cutscene that plays the first time you do it. Although displacer beasts don't actually displace in this game, they just turn invisible and then reappear. God, everything just hits like a frickin' truck. Alright, you know what? Shoot some fire arrows at you. Nope, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. Back to sword and shield. But that's a blink dog. Yeah, again, the fact that they tried to push pass this game off as being based on the actual rules of the role-playing game is just not true. Although, in the Displacer Beast case, like, in some of the cases, it might just be, like, hardware limitations at the time. Right? Like, maybe it was just something where the programming for having, like, two things on screen, but only one of them. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm just trying to make excuses for it, but... Oh, this actually might be it. Yep. Here's the Displacer Beast. Although, don't the blink dogs, like, actually, like, phase out of the material, like phase out? Like, these guys are, they're still present, they're just invisible. I can't remember if the blink dog, oh no, maybe I'm thinking the phase spider. I might be thinking of the phase spider. Oh, so the game that I was playing, where I was like, of course there's spiders, it was Pathfinder. It was Pathfinder. No, was it Pathfinder or was it the Warhammer game? I don't know. It was one of those two, anyway. Let me peek. Yeah, just I'm almost positive that it's actually the phase spider that, like, it basically like crosses over into the ethereal realm temporarily. But that's definitely the phase spider. I can't remember if the blink dog does that too. And Displacer Beasts, there's so many, like, just D&D monsters that I love, and, like, And like it seems like, you know, like beholders are my absolute favorite. Like, just end of discussion. If I had to say one monster is absolutely my favorite, it's the beholder. But then it's like I love undead, I love dragons, I love like lizard folk, I love displacer beasts and mind flayers. Like there's just so many monsters. But displacer beasts are I just absolutely love them. I never really used them or thought much of them. Until I started playing the Chainmail miniatures game, and I got the Drow faction, Killset. Because Killset was a super broken faction. And they had, so it was like, you know, the different Drow, but they also had a Displacer Beast. And the Displacer Beast had a 50% miss chance. So even if you made your attack and you hit, you had to roll a d20, and if you rolled, I think it was if you rolled 1 through 10, you missed. How am I doing for potions here? 18. Alright, let's recall. I've got enough. I'm not worried about gold. I've got enough gold to buy potions. But the Displacer Beast was such a broken piece that shortbow +3. Nope. No, it's still worse than the fine shortbow +1. Yeah, so there was only one player who was ever able to beat the Drow faction that I played, and that match was still super close. But they released the Drow army around the time that they announced that they were discontinuing the game, so they weren't as concerned about game balance anymore, and it definitely showed, because that was like when you were getting into set 4 of Chainmail, and set 4 was like just not well balanced at all. And I always hated the fact that they canceled that game because it was just... Anyway, I don't want to get too much. I don't want to start getting too bitter, but the Chainmail miniatures game was super awesome, and Wizards of the Coast never should have dumped it. They basically did it because 3.5 was coming out, and they wanted to switch to plastic minis and random. Which, from a marketing perspective, makes 100% sense. Like, from a business perspective, I can't argue that decision at all. Here's where we start fighting the Frost Giants as well. Now, what's interesting is the Displacer Beast... Whoops. Oh, there he is. The Displacer Beast gets a little cutscene. Oh. Oh. Actually, you know what would be perfect for this? Repulsion. But I can't remember if there's a scene that actually introduces the Frost Giants or not. Blink Dog is just an instant action sand plane. Okay. Is it like a teleport effect? Or is it just like, or is it literally an invisibility effect? I can honestly say I've never used a Blink Dog as an encounter in all the years that I've been running D&D. There's been some adventures that have had, like, Blink Dogs in them, but they're usually a companion character to an NPC that you're interacting with in a, that like, is not an enemy. It's just like a friendly NPC, and they add the Blink Dog for flavor. Okay, I do like when they're in the water, because you can actually track them in the water. Instant teleport, okay. So it is different, it's a little bit different, because here they're just turning invisible. Okay, nope, here's the Frost Giant. no, I thought he was dying, but he didn't. Oh, okay. Nope, 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 run away, run away. Okay, there we go, we got him there. Yeah, giants are brutal. And there's a section where I think we fight like 2 or 3 at the same time. Oh, there's a winter wolf. I will say, there is actually a pretty impressive amount of different enemies that you fight in the game. Like, they definitely make each act of the game feel very different from one another. You consider Displacer Beast as plane shifting? Yeah, I guess that, yeah, that can make sense. I just look at it as like an illusion that they, and like different editions have handled it differently. Because like in 5th edition, so okay, so going back to the first time I ever ran Displacer Beast was in 3rd edition, and in 3rd edition they just had a mischance and that was it. Now, if you had like non-visual senses that you could rely on, like blind sense or blind sight, then they had like no special defenses for it, right? But if you were just like a normal player character making some normal melee attack, and every single attack you had to roll that mischance. In 5th edition, and like I really like 5th edition. Like, don't get me wrong. Like I'm not one of those people that trash talks or, you know, anything bad about 5e. I really like 5e. I'm a little bit burned out on running it, but I still really like the system. The thing that I will say is that they really nerfed a lot of monsters, and Displacer Beasts are one of them. Because with the Displacer Beasts in 5e, as soon as you hit them, like if you hit them, their displacement ability stops working until the end of their like next turn. So one person just has to hit them once, and then their displacement doesn't work for the rest of the round. And I don't necessarily like that, because I think of their displacement ability as sort of like warping their appearance continuously throughout the round, and not just like resetting every 6 seconds. It's just one of those things that, you know, I don't think it would break the game if their displacement was just always in effect. Because again, that's something that would make them, it would make them a bit scarier to fight. And I feel like just too many things. I feel like just a few too many things in 5e have been altered to make the enemies less frightening, I guess. Like, they completely destroyed. Like, anything like level drain or ability drain, just completely rendered toothless in 5e. And, like, a Displacer Beast displacement is another one of those things where it just feels like they went a little too far, nerfing it for the players. Five E's a fun system. I consider it more the storytelling edition. Yeah, that's fair. I think that's a fair statement. And like I said, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's just, you know, I mean, it was publicly play tested, and it just leans a little too. Okay, guys, relax with the breath weapons, please. Come on, in 3rd edition, like, weren't there limits on how many times you could do that? Or a certain number of rounds you had to wait before it recharged. Yeah, I just feel 5e is just a little bit too slanted towards the players. Like, some of the enemy abilities that used to be really, like, frightening have been kind of... Okay! God, these things are brutal. They just been, like I said, with the ability training, like, there's no level training, period. In 5e, will you just stop it? So, like, whites in D&D used to be really scary to go up against. Scale gloves, just regular, yeah, okay. Because they used to be really scary because they drained levels. And losing a level sucked. Now, there are things that you could do to regain that level, like there were spells that could restore them, but it was, like, they were terrifying to go up against. And, and now they're trivial. Like, they're just completely trivial to fight. Like, they're not frightening at all. Like, Drow used to be terrifying because of their spell resistance. Like, being able to render wizard spells almost like wasn't like 85% spell resistance or something like that. Like, it was a super high number, so it was a terrifying prospect to go up against Drow, especially if you were a spellcaster, because you were basically, you know, it was a super high gamble, like super high odds that your spells just weren't going to work. And then they, you know, they kind of throttled that back from different editions, and I don't even know. Oh, by the way, ice spiders, because why not, right? But honestly, I can't even remember if Drow actually have spell resistance now or not. I'm actually gonna have to look that up because I legitimately do not remember. If that's something that they just don't have anymore. And spell resistance now is just not. Now, granted, I think spell resistance was super overdone in 5th edition or 3rd edition D&D. Like, too many things had it. But, like, you know, there are ways around that, right? But in 5e, spell resistance is... It's just not... I don't know. Like, what 5e spell resistance does is you get advantage on saving throws versus spells, and you, like, resist the damage. So, like, spells will do, like, half the damage. But that's still not the same as your spell just simply not working on them because they resist it. And, like, someone taking less damage from a spell is not as bad, or it's not as, like, terrifying to go up against as something just not working at all. Like, when you throw a fireball at something that has spell resistance in 5e, you know you're still getting some damage in. It might not be a lot, but you know you're still getting some damage in. Versus in earlier editions where you could throw a fireball at a group of Drow, and just, like, none of them take damage. Like, you could throw a fireball into a group of, like, 6 Drow, and they could all shrug it off. And that back then was a terrifying thought. Ooh, full plate gloves. Here we go. I prefer full plate armor, but so yeah. So that doubles my defense provided by the gloves, and they're not even magical. Ooh, padded armor +2 though. So there's slightly higher. And a giant. And of course there has to be like a huge... Holy God! Go away. Please die. Please die. There we go. Holy. How many potions am I down to now? 19. I like my characters to have some type of clues to what... Oh yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. Yeah, like, I don't like springing things on my players. You know, like, if something has an ability like level drain or spell resistance, you know, I will definitely let them know that. Generally, what I'll let them do is make, like, a knowledge check.
Swords, axes, hammers. We have more than enough weapons for everyone.
But the thing that I want them to, like, I want them to know what the enemy has. But still have it be something where it's like, okay, it's still, like, a frightening thing to go up against. Like, it should be common knowledge that, you know, a vampire can drain your levels. Right, drain your life force. And then, you know, you should take that knowledge and proceed however you decide, but... Although, like, the blood drain ability... the blood drain ability that, like, vampires and certain things have in 5e, I actually kind of like the way that they do it, where it drains your maximum hit points instead of levels. Like, I actually kind of like that. The downside of it, though, is that, oh, you get them all back after sleeping for the night. Like, and the more that I've run 5th edition, the more overpowered a single night's sleep really kind of feels now. Like, the only thing you don't get fully back after a night's rest are your hit dice. Because you only get half of those back, and I almost wonder why they bothered doing that. Like, if it's supposed to be something where it mitigates. Okay, you guys need to settle down.
Stay down.
Yeah, like, it just, like they can only get half their hit dice back from the full rest, but they get all of their hit points back, so... I don't know. I kind of prefer, like, their level times their con modifier back in hit points. And then they can spend hit dice. They can spend hit dice to gain additional health back. Or... Oh, jeez, okay. There's... Guys, stop it. So, 4th edition D&D introduced healing surges, and healing surges are essentially like what hit dice are now, right? But the one thing that I think 4th edition did really interesting with their healing surges is, like, so some abilities use, like, you spend a healing surge to do something, or if you're doing, like, overland exploration, and you fail, like, your survival checks to, like, so survival checks to find, like, the safest possible path to get through the area, to get through the area that you're traveling through. If you fail it, you basically, like, you lose a certain number off of your number of healing surges. So, and that represents, like, exhaustion, suffering, like, physical injuries, right? So, like, you might fall, like, there could be, like, a narrative thing where you're scaling a mountain and you fail your check, so you slide down, like, you end up falling down part of the way. But instead of it just being, like, damage that you take at the time, because it's, like, part of the travel sequence, instead they just say, like, you know, it costs you X number of your healing surges, and you don't get those back until you rest for a certain period of time comfortably. So, like, I like hit dice in 5th edition, and I like the fact that you don't get all your hit dice back after a long rest, but there's not a lot of incentive for people to use hit dice a lot in 5th edition. Because a long rest is so powerful, If that makes any sense.
Stay down.
Like, I wouldn't mind if hit dice became, like, the natural healing. Right? So, like, you okay. You get your long rest in, and then you spend your hit dice, right, to see how much healing you actually get back from that long rest. I think even that would be fine. Let's see. Oh, Mystara introduced Nosferatu and Mystara. They are blood drinkers. Yeah, the Nosferatu were really cool. In BX or Beckney or Rule Cyclopedia or Holmes Basic or I'm completely drawing a blank on the original. Yeah, no, Holmes Basic, Moldvay, but there's so many different versions of D&D Basic, but yeah, Nosferatu were really cool. When my friend and I started in '79, we thought for the hero's healing system was weak, so we went with what is now. Okay. If you could pass 3 encounter rolls. Yeah, like, they really overcompensated. Because, yeah, natural healing sucked back in the day. Like, in AD&D and Basic Expert, it was 1 hit point per day. You regained 1 hit point per day of complete rest. So, like, that sucked. Like, that just sucked. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It just sucked. And now they've kind of, like, they've overpowered it. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, in a system where they give you access to healing without the need of a cleric, I don't think you need to give them all their hit points back after a long rest when you have a system like Hit Dice. Like, you still give them something for resting, and that's where I think, like, your con modifier times your level per day and hit points back, minimum of 1. Oh, is this the point of no return? Okay, so this was going to be a pretty good way to end the stream. Like, for the Baldur's Gate one, I kind of want it to be around the 2-hour mark. I'm pretty sure we're about to fight. Yep. So we're going to fight a white dragon. And this fight can be pretty rough. Syraxis. So, okay, I'm just going to pause for a second, because this is kind of neat. Because in this fight, you have, like, the ice falling from the ceiling throughout the entire fight. That was not a thing that was in 3rd edition. But it's almost like a prediction for what will become layer actions in 5th edition. And layer actions are an amazing addition to... I can't remember if 4th edition had something like them or not, but they're just an awesome part of, like, 5e, and I think that they're an excellent thing to have. But this is like an early version of that before that was really a part of the game, so it's kind of neat. But like fighting dragons in, like, the Dragon Age game, they do a lot of pushback. So when they beat their wings, it pushes you back. I might end up dying. Because they can do a lot of damage, and he's got a ton of health. Oh yeah, and his breath weapon also, in addition to having, like, just cold breath, it also shoots out, like, balls of ice. Oh. Okay, stop flying. There you go. Oh yeah, so this is where being the archer does kind of come in. Except, oh my god. So the ice balls slow you down, and they knock you back. And they disrupt your attack. I've wasted so many of these fireball arrows. Whoa, 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 whoa. Excuse me. Got him to about half health though, that's good. He will start showing some damage too. But, oh my god. I also want to say though that was a point of no return, because I believe, I could be wrong, because it's been a while since I played this, but I believe the entrance that we took to get in here, I think that's collapsed. And we're down to 5 potions. So that's not. And he still has over half his health. So this could be a reload previous save situation. All right, let's loot these early. Back down to 5 potions. Alright. I think I actually got to melee this. Because just standing in front of that breath weapon. And I had like 50 potions when I came into this fight, so. But yeah, he's starting to get bloodied. Also, speaking of bloodied, like, so that was a 4th edition mechanic that I really think they should have kept. Oh, we're so close. We're so close. Ugh. We are so close to killing this guy. Yeah, he's starting to look really bad. He's also kind of stuck in the wall, which I've never actually seen happen before. Is he, like, completely stuck in there? No. Oh, man, I thought we had him. His health bar is, like, non-existent. There we go. We got him. Holy heck. So that was... I survived. I have... Oh, and I leveled. Alright, we're gonna upgrade... exploding arrows is not worth it. We're gonna upgrade fire arrows, ice arrows, and we're done there. Okay. So yeah, like I said, I think this entrance is collapsed. I don't think I can go back. A mysterious magical force blocks your path. Yep. So I've got how many potions? 3. So that went well. However, we completed Act 2, so we are moving into Act 3, which is the 3rd and final act of the game. So I want to say we've only got, like, maybe 3 streams. Oh, and I got an achievement. I forgot this game has achievements. Okay, so we did get some potions through the treasure chest there. Yeah, so... What are we at? 2 hours, 12 minutes? Yeah, you know what? We fought a frickin' dragon, so I think that's a really good place. I think that's a really good place to end the stream. I was considering running a little bit longer because I missed a couple of weeks. What do I do? Alright, you know what? Let's get to our safe. Let's get to our safe spot. Oh, these are undead though, so that means Morningstar Disruption. I also used like 60 or 70 arrows in that fight too. Yeah, let's get to we'll get to the spot where we can actually set our recall, which I think that's what I did last time too, to be fair. When I went from Act 1 to Act 2. I think I wanted to make sure I got to the Dwarven camp before ending that stream, so... Or did I end the stream? I don't know. Screw it, we're doing it live. We're gonna go until we get to our camp, so that guy can't hurt me. And that guy definitely can't hurt me. Like, look how much experience that dragon was worth. So I gained a level, and I'm almost halfway to my next one. Don't wear myself. Oh no, I'll be fine. I don't think it's too... I don't think we have to go too far. Okay, we got a Mace of Disruption plus 2, which does 5 to 12, and our... No, we do 9 to 13 with our Morningstar. Just take a quick drink there with our Morningstar plus 1, so we're going to keep using that. Ooh, a Warhammer Disruption, though. What does that do? Oh, and we got some good boots here, too. Okay, half plate boots plus 3 for a defense bonus of 12, or full plate boots plus 1. We're going to go with full plate boots. 3 to 10, really? Really? The two-handed weapon is, like, just worse in every way. Oh, man, that sucks. But yeah, no, I did miss a couple of weeks of the stream, so we'll go a little bit further. We'll get to our camp, and then we'll call it. Oh, repulsion. Ooh, Ring of Constitution, that's pretty good. What I really want to find are Rings of Regeneration. If my potion situation does become too bad, I don't think it will. I can always do the duplication glitch if I really need to, just for the sake of not having to spend, like, minutes just doing nothing, waiting for my health to respawn. The one thing I missed in 5e, yeah, the ability for dragons to cast spells. Yeah, I'm hoping that the new dragon-oriented book, when it comes out, will have, like, some really good spellcasting options for dragons. Because, like, I mean, dragons are supposed to be, like, one of the sources of magic, right? They're supposed to be, like, where certain things have... I mean, like, the dragon bloodline for sorcerers. Like, you have draconic blood in your system, so it gives you magic, but dragons don't cast magic on their own. Yeah, that's something that really needs to come back. It's just, like, I think they oversimplified dragon stat blocks. Again, it feels like a little bit of overcorrecting, because manufacturing dragon stats in earlier editions of the game, it sucked. Like, it's not that it was hard, it was just tedious, because there was a lot of stuff that you had to do. A lot of cross-referencing charts. Was that a shield plus 5? Wow, okay, we are getting a jump in the quality of some of this stuff that we are fighting. But yeah, so like making a dragon suck. That's why the 3rd edition or 3.5 Draconomicon was such a good book, right? And for people. I think that's why a lot of people really, you know, look back at that book fondly. And it was a good book. Like, it was a really well-written book. Like, it deserves to be fondly remembered. But one of the things that was so good about it was that it provided stat blocks for every age category of dragon. So all you had to do was, like, alter some things. You didn't have to, you didn't have to write you didn't have to stat everything out, you know, fully. You could just, like, substitute the feats or the spells that you wanted to. And just use, like, those stat blocks from the Draconomicon. And I use the Draconomicon a lot. Oh, more undead, so back to... Oh, these undead are annoying because they actually have poisonous gas inside of them. And when they die, they release the poison gas cloud. As you can see there, and they release that poison gas cloud even if your disruption ability is what killed them. And they throw butt balls. Like, who throws butt? Oh, there's one of the guys that just his upper torso still comes after me. You have an accessory for D&D that sets all the spells. Okay, that's cool. I don't. So I like a digital accessory, I guess. I'm not good at using like digital stuff like D&D Beyond or anything along those lines. I'm just not good at. Like there's for Pathfinder 2nd Edition, there's like Pathfinder Path Builder 2e. It's really good. It's a really good thing, really good system to use. Makes character creation a breeze, but I don't use it because I'm just not good with technology. All right. Whoop, and exploding barrel. Only have 3 potions left. Yeah, I might have to cheese it. And duplicate some potions, because I just don't want to... I just don't want to spend a lot of time just sitting there waiting to regenerate. Like, in my own personal playthroughs, I don't mind doing it, but for, Oh, it's a sliding... Oh! Okay, sliding piece in a cardboard... Okay. Oh, that's actually... Okay, that's something I would probably actually use. So I've done some videos for a company or for a guy that like they did like the spell tokens, like the poker chips, and they had like the metal potion tokens that I did videos for. I want to say that they also do like spell tracking stuff as well, but I don't remember fully off the top of my head what those encompass. Or how they go about it. Okay, we are pretty close to death there. Hopefully we can make it without having to cheese anything. God, there's just so many. I will say, the other thing that I kind of miss in 5e is, like, spells, because we're sort of talking about spell stuff. I kind of miss the way that DCs for higher level spells were done in, like, 3rd edition. Because in 5e, the DC is the same, whether it's a 1st level or a 9th level spell. And, like, I get the justification that the ability to overcome the magic should be based on the caster and not the spell. But higher level spells are more powerful spells. So I don't mind the fact that they're harder to resist. So, like, in 3rd edition D&D, the DC to resist a spell was 10 plus your intelligence modifier plus the level of the spell that was being cast. So if you had, like, if you had an 18 intelligence, it would be 14 plus the spell level, right? So a first level spell to make a saving throw against first level spell in 3rd edition would be a 15. A second level spell, the DC would be 16, and so on. Like the higher the level of the spell, the more potent the spell is, the harder it is to resist. And that's something that I kind of miss because, again, the formula for DCs feels kind of low in 5th edition because it starts at 8 instead of 10. And, you know, sure, you get to add your proficiency bonus. Oh, okay, here's some lizard folk. You get to add your proficiency bonus, but that proficiency bonus doesn't get super high. Oof, okay. So, like, for example, like, I don't know, just having... At lower levels, it's not as bad. Right, at lower levels, it still seems kind of balanced. The numbers are kind of still similar to what you'd expect for DCs between 3rd and 5th. But when you get to, like, the high-level stuff... Okay, stop that, please. When you get to, like, the high-level spells, though, the fact that their DCs are still, like, you know, 15, 16... just doesn't seem great. Okay, so there's a wall of vines there. And a save point, so we're going to save. The ability bonuses can score. Well, in 5th edition, though, your ability bonuses are capped, right? So that's the other thing. Like, in 3rd edition, your attributes were not capped at all. There was no limit on how high they could get. It's just, like, the amount of resources you need to get them up. Like, in 3rd edition, you can get, like, stats in the 30s. Alright, so here we go. So here we have one of the coolest NPCs in the whole game. Isn't 20, like, plus 10? Oh, in 3rd edition? No. It's the same thing. In AD&D, you may be thinking, like, AD&D, where a 20 stat gave you ridiculous bonuses for things. But in 3rd edition, it's the same as it is in 5e, so a 20 would just be plus 5.
Peace. Peace. Show no weapons. I have no wish to fight you. I am called Slavos. I place the wall of vines upon the snaking trail of mud to herd you here to this island.
Oh, Slavos, you are the best.
No and yes. The words you hear, the words I speak, they are not the same. There are serpents in the marsh, the Sketka, that when you squeeze from them their venom, weave it into your magics. All you speak is understood by all who hear you. It is a half-magic, but of great use. So I have placed it upon you. The cries of the monsters of the marsh, the words of others of my people, both will have sense to your ears.
I'm used to plus 3 being a large... Oh, yeah. If you're used to, like, basic expert, because plus 3 is, like, you have to have, like, an 18 for a plus 3. But in... So, in like, AD&D, we'll just use strength for an example, right? I think that's the easiest one to use. In AD&D, you don't get any bonuses for strength until you get up to, like, 15, I think. Like, 14 or 15. And then, like, to hit and damage bonuses will be different numbers, depending on how high your stats get. In 18 gives you, I think it's, like, plus 3 to hit and plus 4 to damage. But when you get into exceptional strength, so, like, the 18 percentiles, those numbers go up. But between, like, the difference between, like, 18 to 19 is huge. Like, it's a huge increase. But in third edition D&D, it's the same as 5e, right? It's just for 10 you get +0, and then for every even number up, past that, you get an extra +1. But yeah, I wish I had my second edition player's handbook handy, because like I said, the numbers get ridiculous. Like, I want to say that a 20 gives you like +10 to damage, which is where you probably got like that +10 for. But like a 21 is like +13, or the numbers get ridiculous.
I have brought you here to ask why you have come to our lands. The Onyx Tower, is it your god?
The Onyx Tower, huh? But yeah, so like in AD&D, the differences between like a 9 for your attribute and a 14 or 15 in your attribute are almost negligible.
The Onyx Tower, whose surface glitters like oil upon the water. It arrives in our homeland quick, sudden, and stabs into the heart of the marsh.
I love that animation.
Poison spear. All the tribes have raised their spears to it. Their hissing has become low and weak, that of slaves. The tower has devoured the hearts of my people, all except Slavos.
You say the tower came to the marsh. How?
I do not know. Darkness falls, then rises, leaves the tower behind like a weapon dropped on a field of battle. Tower smells of fire pits and cities, things not of the marsh. Not even moonlight will touch it, for the tower drinks its light. It is a black kiss, a serpent's bite on the land.
Well, maybe we can help each other out. We can be bros.
If you will strike the spider within the tower, then I will give you help any way that I can. Supplies, guidance, these things I may help you with. If you wish to reach the tower, you must first go through the tribes of my people. Slavos shall ungrow the walls of vines in your path, clear the way for you. Continue along the snaking trail of mud to the drowned town of humans, now the great gathering place of the tribes of the marsh. Beyond the drowned city is the tower. The tribes are camped in the innards of the human drowned city. To scatter them, you must break the spine of the tribes. Find our king, Sessith. Very strong, very angry, but stupid like big tree. He lives in Great Stone Fort in Human Town. Find him there, kill him. Sessith's death, or make the tribes scatter like quarrelsome snakes. Follow the drums. They will lead you to my people. Once before the great drowning, our land was the land of your people. Now, under the water, many things of your people can be found. Things of steel and magic. Slavers cannot use them, does not need them.
But you'll sell them to me. Alright, let's just take care of a little housekeeping. Yeah, so this has been quite the, yeah, I think we've only got like 2 streams left of this game, actually. Oh, my first AD&D experience was with the Nightmare DM. Yeah. Then after that, my other friend dropped the basic book on my desk. Okay. Yeah, I had a pretty rough experience with AD&D second. Like, I got into second edition, and I had a pretty rough experience with the DM there too. Luckily, it didn't dissuade me, but he was only there for a few months, and then somebody else took over, and I had different bad experiences with the DM that took over, but it was never quite as bad as the first person. Oh, man. So he's got some really good equipment here. Like, just... So, right now, by comparison, my weapon is doing 11 points of damage. The weapons I can buy here... So some of them, like 14, 18, that's not bad, right? But then you've got... like, this 100,000+ gold weapon that does 20 to 108. You've got a shocking burst staff that does 9 to 93. This is the one that I kind of... I'm almost tempted to buy some of this stuff, because this Mithril Morningstar, at minimum triples triples the minimum damage I can do. I'm gonna hold off for now, but this section might be the section where I break the whole I'm not going to buy stuff rule. But I mean, look at these prices. Like, this is stupid. I'm sorry. 25,000 gold for plate mail. Like, oh, it's brutal. It is brutal, but yeah. Inflation, yeah, to the nth degree, right? He thought it was him versus the player. Yeah, so I've had DMs like that. Like, so it wasn't the first DM that I have. He wasn't confrontational like that. Like, he wasn't like the DM against the players kind of person. His problem was that he had zero tolerance for beginners. Like, he would not explain anything. If you asked how a rule worked, like if you were trying to figure out the game and you asked for help, he got very kind of pissy about it. And he hated the fact that someone who is playing the game for the first time didn't already have their own set of dice. Like, that's the kind of experience that I had. He was just really unwelcoming. The second DM, he was more of a, like, player versus DM kind of mentality, but I will say in his defense, there was at least one player in the group that was very antagonistic and created the adversarial atmosphere. And he would egg the DM on in such a way that, and I've told this before, right? Like, so he made one character that it was all about, like, just buffing his armor class. Right? Trying to have, like, the highest armor class you could possibly have. And for like, 3rd or 4th level characters, he had an armor class in the 30s, and then the rest of us, like, the next highest armor class was, like, 19. And he would egg the DM on, but the worst part about the whole thing was he would egg the DM on in such a way that it wasn't like, you know, just like, I dare you to kill my character. It's, I dare you to overcome my biggest strength. So the DM would take that as a challenge, and instead of, like, overcoming his ridiculously high armor class, by doing things like throwing spells at him that required saving throws, or using touch attacks, or, you know, other things that rendered that ridiculously high armor class pointless, he would try to beat him by overcoming that strength, and the rest of us were just sort of caught in the crosshairs. And this player did other stuff along those lines as well. Like, he actively wanted to disrupt campaigns. So I can kind of understand why that DM became adversarial. But at the same time, I just couldn't stay in that group. I had to get out. Alright, yeah, so we have found... oh, he's gonna lower the thing there. So we found Slavis, and we're on the next stream, we're gonna go fight Sesseth. So yeah, we have 2 streams left of this game, so 2 more weeks, this game will be finished. So next week's stream, what we're going to do is we're going to enter the Drowned City. We are going to overthrow the Lizard Folk King. And then we are going to make our way to the Black Tower. And we will probably end the stream next week when we enter the Black Tower. Because the Black Tower is the last section of the game. And then that will be a stream all in of itself. So, yeah, we got quite a bit done in this one. We finished all of Act 2, we fought a dragon, we fought a drow priestess with over-exaggerated jiggle physics, and now we are in the Marsh of Chalimber getting ready to go up against Sesseth, the Lizard Folk King, and that guy is going to be brutal, but we'll save that. The Drowned City is awesome. The backstory behind it is just super cool. Yeah, because it's like the Marsh of Chalimber. The backstory is basically like the human city was destroyed in a mage duel. They just conjured so many forces of nature that it ended up leading to like the whole thing being flooded. I think Slavis actually tells the story, so we might actually start with that on next week's stream. But until then, this was a ton of fun. Thanks for hanging out, Sortel, and anyone else that popped in for a little bit. We got on some weird tangents in this stream, I'm not going to lie. Some things that have absolutely nothing to do with video games or D&D or fantasy. But it was a ton of fun, and I always enjoy doing this. A couple of days' time, we're getting back into Dragon Age Origins. I don't know if the Friday Star Wars stream is going to happen or not. We might be going away that weekend. I'm not sure yet, though. But we're doing Dragon Age Origins for sure on Wednesday, and this was a ton of fun. So yeah, thanks to anyone who popped in. Like I said, Sortal in particular. Always great getting the chat with you. This video is also going to be uploaded on YouTube, so if you're watching it on YouTube, I appreciate it there as well. And yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, let me know in the comments what you thought of the dragon fight when you went through this game back in the day. And if you're looking forward to the fight with the Lizard Folk King, who's probably one of the meanest fights in the entire game. So, at least as far as my memory serves me. But yeah, so thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate it. We're just going to save again here. Just be safe. And I will see you either on Wednesday for Dragon Age or next week for this one again. So yeah, until then, thanks a lot and take care.